last weekend when Trump brought it back up. He says it's not good health care. He wants to replace it. Now, Democrats, again, took that and ran with it very quickly. They didn't really focus on the replace part. They just said 40 million Americans have Obamacare, and the Republicans want to rip away your health care. President Biden has already mentioned this several times in speeches. He even had the demographic breakdown. I think he said 20% of African Americans could lose their health insurance, 15% of Latino Americans could lose their health insurance. So they're already, again, taking this and running with it. Trump has already actually tried to clarify on his end. He sent 2 more Truth Social posts saying, I don't want to get rid of it. I want to replace it with something better.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by White House reporter Haisten Willis. Haisten, former President Donald Trump has given the Democrats an early Christmas present, or at least they think so. What might that be?
The Democrats definitely think he's done that. He mentioned over the weekend, seemingly out of the blue, an idea to repeal and replace Obamacare. People are kind of having flashbacks to like 2010, 2011. Obamacare was passed in 2010. Republicans railed against it really from the moment they had the idea to do it. After its passage, there were several symbolic revocations of the bill. They tried to repeal it when Republicans had unified control of the White House and Congress in 2017. That didn't work. And then it kind of died out until last weekend when Trump brought it back up. He says it's not good health care. He wants to replace it. Now, Democrats, again, took that and ran with it very quickly. They didn't really focus on the replace part. They just said 40 million Americans have Obamacare, and the Republicans want to rip away your health care. President Biden has already mentioned this several times in speeches. He even had the demographic breakdown. I think he said 20% of African Americans could lose their health insurance, 15% of Latino Americans could lose their health insurance. So they're already, again, taking this and running with it. Trump has already actually tried to clarify on his end. He sent 2 more Truth Social posts saying, I don't want to get rid of it. I want to replace it with something better. But again, the Democrats kind of have their message there. And I think we're going to hear a lot about that, potentially all the way until next November.
You know, because Obamacare, when it first passed, didn't poll very well, and Republicans ran on repeal and replace for quite a long time. But even by the time Trump was in office, the numbers were shifting in Obamacare's favor.
I think so, yeah. The latest numbers that I saw were about 6 in 10 Americans have a favorable view of it, which is, again, I'm sure the Democratic people were looking at that too and said, hey, we've got a winning issue here. Yeah, something the Republicans talked about, I mean, for the better part of a decade, even before the 2017 vote that John McCain famously tanked when that happened. I don't know how much appetite there's going to be to really do that, but it's out of the bag now.
So we're starting to see some Democratic splits over Israel and the fighting in Gaza, and President Joe Biden is under some pressure from the left flank of the Democratic Party. How has he been handling that so far?
He really is. He, in his statements, he's still basically been on the Israel side, saying he supports Israel and their right to defend themselves. John Kirby, the national security advisor, has talked about this a lot. He's been very strong, saying Hamas, they want to kill Jews, or they say they want to do more terrorist attacks like October 7th, and that's what they're about. He's used the word genocide to describe them. He's even said, genocide is not a word we should throw around lightly. This has a specific definition. Hamas is genocidal. Israel is not. But President Biden has run into a lot of opposition on this. There's been a lot of loud protesters saying he's the one committing a genocide. A good example was the other day, it was at Rosalind Carter's funeral in Atlanta. There were a big group of protesters set up right outside the funeral, outside the church, chanting. I think it was Biden, Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Tells you how appropriately or not, how impassioned these people are. That
they can at least they can rhyme.
Yeah, they can rhyme. They can rhyme, but they can also are willing to yell with bullhorns and things like that outside of the funeral. Yeah. So the people on the left wing, for better or worse, they're fired up about this. They're making noise. The Biden administration has tried to equivocate a little bit. They talked about Islamophobia. They talked about wanting Israel to show restraint. There's this issue about if the war resumes, it would be more in the southern part of Gaza, and they don't want them to do in the south what they did with the north. Again, calling for restraint. But Biden has still been basically on the pro-Israel side, and we'll see how much that hurts him with younger, more progressive voters in particular.
So there's been a lot of talk about whether Biden should sort of de-emphasize Bidenomics, since the polls so far don't really show that message working. But he's had some good things, some good news to tout about the economy recently, no?
They would say that, yeah. The GDP is still growing at a pretty healthy clip. The big one is going to be inflation. That is still going down. We're down to 3%, way down from where it was summer 2022, and it got all the way up to 9%. So that's what they're saying now. It's down by 2/3 and that kind of thing. But I think kind of like how Trump with this Obamacare thing, no matter what they do, they're going to hear about this now that he's kind of said that.
Sure.
I think the Democratic version of that is they're going to hear about inflation no matter what happens. Almost if inflation stopped today and was at 0 until next November, I still think Republicans will be talking about this. They're now going back to, since Biden took office, how much the price has gone up, and they can say 20% on eggs and 50% on gas. So those aren't the right numbers, but high numbers going back to early 2021. So the economy is on paper doing well. That's what the Bidenomics thing is about, trying to kind of point out these things, that job numbers are still great, unemployment is still low, but inflation, I think, is still going to be the thing you're going to hear about from Republicans from now until election season.
And maybe Biden pays the price.
He might, yes, he might.
Thank you, Haisten. You can read Haisten and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.